the old man who planted an unnamed seed. There once lived an old man named Rashid in a small village called Kigonyo. His life was filled with hardship. He was so poor that his house was made of mud, with a thatched roof and a door tied together with rusty wires. Mzee Rashid had no wife and no children. He survived by making charcoal, weeding other people's farms, and sometimes carrying stones for builders. Every time he sat under the shade of a tree after a long day's work, sorrow weighed heavily on his heart. Why do I have no child to wipe my tears? Who will bury me when I die? Who will ever remember me? One day at the market, Rashid saw a little boy picking scraps of food from the ground. His clothes were torn, his feet covered in dust, and his eyes full of loneliness. People ignored him. Some even shouted at him. But Rashid walked closer and asked, "Rashid, whose child are you, boy? Why are you here alone?" "Boy, weakly I have no father, no mother. They say they died. I don't know who will take me in." Rashid's heart overflowed with compassion. Sedwari Digabon. Though he had very little, he shared the food he had saved for himself. That night, they both slept on the same old mat. From that day forward, the boy whose name was Juma became like a son to Rashid. Rashid worked harder than ever. Whenever he went to the farm to weed, Juma followed to help. Whenever Rashid sold a little charcoal, he saved a coin or two for Juma's schooling. Rashid, you have no blood of your own. You're suffering for a child who isn't yours. One day he'll leave and forget you. A child doesn't have to be born from your womb. He can be born in your heart. Juma went to school. Even though he had no shoes and carried his books in old paper bags, he studied with determination. Whenever he returned home with a report card full of good grades, Rashid's eyes filled with tears of joy. Years passed. Juma grew into a young man, completed high school, and finally joined university. By then, Rashid was old and weak. He still wore his old kanzu and shoes that had been stitched many times. Yet every day he counted down the days to see his son's success. But university life changed Juma. He began to mingle with city boys, wore sharp suits, and spoke English with pride. When among friends, he often felt ashamed to say that he was raised by a poor old man. The long-awaited day finally came, the graduation ceremony. Students invited their families, and the hall was full of laughter and bright colors. Though frail, Rashid walked miles on foot to attend. He wore his old patched kanzu and repaired shoes, but in his heart he whispered, "This is my victory. My son has made it." When Juma's name was called, the crowd clapped loudly. Rashid raised his trembling hands high, tears streaming down his face in pride. "Is that old man in the kanzu your father? He doesn't look like he belongs here." And with pride mixed with shame, Juma answered coldly, "Juma, no, that's not my father. I don't even know him. He just showed up." Those words cut through Rashid's heart like a knife. He froze, his body shaking. The world felt empty. He wiped his tears silently and walked away, unnoticed. Timer moved on. Juma secured a high-paying job in the city and lived a life of luxury, yet his heart never truly rested. At night, he often dreamed of the old man walking with a bowl of food, calling him my son. One day he received news Rashid was in the hospital, sick and frail. Juma rushed there, but it was too late. Rashid had already passed away, his hands still clutching a small Quran and an old photograph of young Juma in primary school. Juma wept bitterly. He remembered the villager's words, "A child who is not your own may forget you when he succeeds." But deep down, Juma knew the poor old man was the one who had planted the seed of his life. The entire village gathered to bury Rashid. People whispered to Juma, "This man never refused to suffer so that you could succeed. He may not have been your father by blood, but he was your father by heart." Juma was left with unbearable regret. He realized that wealth and honor meant nothing if you forget the one who sacrificed everything for you. Moral of the story: not every father is of blood. Some become fathers through sweat, tears, and unconditional love. True love is not measured by blood, but by sacrifice.